While your discussion chapter would explain what the numbers mean in relation to your research question or questions. For example, Factor 1 has a weak relationship with consumer trust, while Factor 2 has a strong relationship. Importantly, your discussion should link back to your research questions. You need to discuss what the findings mean in terms of your original research questions. What answers do they provide to those questions? Let's look at a practical example. Sticking with the same research topic of consumer trust, the discussion section would clearly outline which factors seem to influence trust and which factors don't. By doing so, this section would be linking back to and addressing the original research question, right? With your findings presented and discussed. All that's left to do is wrap up your dissertation or thesis by drawing your conclusions and discussing the implications. Let's do it. Last but not least, you'll need to wrap up your dissertation or thesis with the conclusion chapter. In this chapter, you'll bring your research full circle by highlighting the key findings of your study and explaining what the implications of these findings are. But what exactly are the key findings and implications? Well, the key findings are those findings that directly relate to your original research questions and overall research objectives, which you discussed in your introduction chapter. In other words, the key findings are the answers to your original research questions. So this section closes the loop for your research project. Let's take a look at a practical example, sticking with the trust topic. This study set out to identify which factors influence consumer-based trust in U.S.-based low-cost equity brokerage firms. The results suggest that the following factors have a large impact on consumer trust: Factor X, Factor Y, and Factor Z, while the following factors have a very limited impact on consumer trust: Factor E and Factor H. Notably, within the 25 to 30 age groups, Factor E had a noticeably larger impact, which may be explained by contextual Factor A. As you can see, this section reminds the reader what you set out to research, and then clearly states exactly what you found. Now let's take a look at the implications. The implications explain what your key findings mean for industry or for research in your area. The implications might look something like this. These findings have noteworthy implications for U.S.-based low-cost equity brokers. Specifically, the large impact of factors X and Y implies that brokers need to consider investing in initiatives that cultivate these perceptions, such as A and B. The limited impact of Factor E suggests that brokers should not overinvest in activities such as C and D. So as you can see, the implications section brings things back down to earth, explaining what the impact of your findings are and how these can be used in industry or academia. The key findings and the implications are the main components of the conclusions chapter, but depending on the university, there may also be some other extras that they want covered here. Most importantly, though, the conclusion chapter must cover the what and the so what. In other words, what your study found and what the findings mean for the industry or research. This brings the study full circle, addresses your research objectives, and closes off the document neat and clean.